Afternoon. Um, let's start with the good news that I just heard about half an hour ago, um, and that is from Governor Newsom. That's the cap and trade commitment the governor has put forward for the program. Um, that is now out. So we are now able to complete what we committed in Central Valley and then go beyond that. This is a moment of the project that since I came on board since September, that we worked very hard to get to a place where we have a stable funding, at least to securitize and monetize and invite some of you private sector people here to come and invest in California high-speed rail. So that's great news for us. Good. Thank you. So, which high-speed rail program in the country is under construction? There's only one. That's the California high-speed rail. That's the one under construction today. All the other programs we heard and talked about, they're in different phases of design, considerations, or environmental or planning. And this is the one that is being built. So, 119 mile of this are contracted. We're working on that. If we can go to the next slide. Oh, I gotta do that. Good. So, where we are today, we said we will build Merced to Bakersfield. That was a legislative action. So we are committed to deliver that. Where are we on that? 171 miles, so 119, 120 under construction. Right now, we are targeting to complete that by the end of 2026. That's all our contracting partner who are working with us. We're saying we'll get the 120 mile in place by the end of next year. Environmental, most of the work is done. The hard part, when we were going through challenges over a period of 10, 12 years, that's now behind us. The other part that we are doing also is completing the design towards Merced section and also the Bakersfield section that we're going through that. Stations are under design. We would like to kickstart in Fresno, getting the early works for the station started end of this year or early next year. So significant progress. 120 miles of this is getting ready to start laying tracks. The plan is we have in the new region explored opportunities how to optimize the schedule and cost and stabilize the funding and financing. We did all of it in 7 months, 8 months. So now we are looking at how to go forward. What do we need next? Of course, the program has faced significant challenges from the beginning when we were going through right-of-way acquisition and clearing the environmental, getting environmental documents cleared. What we then started thinking when I came on board is like, what do we do next? Well, the idea was, let's see how quick we can build this project, how quick we can lay tracks. Then we can go run trains after that. So we said, what are the opportunities? We are doing now, what we are doing is building a yard, 500 acres, 400 acres, where we also looked at get the material that is commoditized and not wait for our contractor partners to come in and buy those materials for us because our volumes are very, very large. So we went and met with the industry, steel manufacturers, cable manufacturers, wires manufacturers, and we sat with them and we came to realize very quick, not only it optimizes the cost, it also pulls the schedule back by years. So we said, let's go build a place where we can store all this material and then bring the contractor partners in. And when they come in, we give them the stuff that is sitting in our yards and say, go, start laying tracks. So we are going to go this year is purchase through contracts a lot of this material. And then next year, we would like to contract with someone who can build rail for us. Our rail yard that we started construction in January will be up and running This is where we are taking freight, Class 1 railroad coming into our yard so that we can bring material from any part of the U.S. That should be up and running in September, October this year. So a lot of progress. The main one for us was how to securitize interest of private sector. That was all about funding financing, right? Got the answer 20 minutes ago. So this is a big deal for us. Is it all the money that we need? Of course, it's a step in the right direction. So we are going to continue to work on that. But the objective is as quick as we can get out and commercialize the railroad out of Central Valley and get connected to Palmdale on one end and to Gilroy. On the other end, we have seen the results of ridership modeling very recently. And it's amazing to see what this connectivity does to the economics, to the housing, to growth in Central Valley. We saw those results and we were amazed by that. So we will continue to look at opportunities where we can right-size the project, build as we go, not overbuild and not underbuild, just right-size the program. And the reason I say that, some of you maybe have seen in California, we invested in different programs in different places. We also want to make sure that when we are investing, it is actually getting closer to put the trains on track. It's not something that we go out and build that will take us decades to get there. And some of those programs are kind of known to you guys, some of you. So how do we optimize costs? We looked at our standards, design criteria, amount of people we will move when we do 120 miles. Then when we do 171, what does that mean in terms of ridership? Then we do go through the mountains in Tehachapi on Palmdale. What does that do? And then you go towards San Jose, going through Gilroy, Pacheco Pass, what ridership we get there. So we started saying, let's build as we move people and build more so that we can commercialize the service sooner than building 6 tracks and buying 6 trains. So, well, that's not making sense. So let's build it at the right time, invest it at the right time. With that, we looked at our grades. We looked at tunnel sizes. We looked at tracks. We looked at stations. If there is a station built that can accommodate 30,000 people per hour coming in and out, and the ridership says it's going to be 500, well, then that's not the right station to build today. It may be the case that we can do it when the ridership arrives there in 10 years, 20 years. So we started streamlining those processes. Why we looked at Gilroy and Palmdale and Merced? Well, on Merced side, we connect San Joaquin. On Gilroy, we connect with Caltrain. And now we are exploring how from Gilroy to get to San Jose, knowing that there is a Union Pacific system there that we have to deal with. So all these efforts were made to optimize cost and pull the schedule back in as much as we can, and then continue to build from there. Other things we looked at internally in our own organization was the efficiencies, the processes, the procurements, the contracting, the way you were doing it. And we started looking at new ways to do business. We can have 10 different types of contracting schemes. When I walked in, everything was done with one yardstick. It's like everything you want to buy, whether it's civil contract, rail contract, or buying a stapler, is all the same. So we're like, all right, let's not do that anymore. Let's streamline our internal processes. So we did that. We put leaders in the right places at the top. Everyone now owns, empowered, and had the responsibility to walk towards one goal, which is to build and go construct and lay tracks and run trains. Ridership numbers, you will be hearing from us soon, I think in July, but we'll have two things: full budget and then complete ridership model that will tell us where we are going. So we have seen early results and they are very, very positive for us. Okay, goes without saying what I've been saying is that I've been saying this for 6 months, like red tape, heavy processes, redundancies in the organization. It was just too top heavy when I walked in. We had, me being an engineer, so we had 10 people to change the light bulb, and they were all debating like how to do it, right? So we said, we just need one guy who can go up and change it. So we are removing that. That means our contracting scheme and the way we are delivering needs to change too. So we're working on that. You will see some new strategies coming out within a month or two, which will be about the program management, construction management, overall delivery mechanisms that we want to use. I mean, we hear all the words that when I was in the industry about design, bid, build, progressive, and all those things. We're going to make a combination, invite all of you, and get your opinions on what we are thinking, and then get your feedback, and then go and launch our new plan of how to build more. This year, we will be entering into contracts to get materials. Next year, we'll be awarding contracts to go lay tracks. That's our plan. Of course, Gilroy Palmdale gives us not only connectivity to these other systems, but it does also provides us a projection of the revenues that we can generate from that. That exercise is ongoing. We have seen some results 2 days ago. Again, very positive. So we can see if we build to both directions at the same time or do one versus the other first, the revenues then start giving us capital money back to put in the program. So we're not always relying on the state and federal. We can actually commercialize the system sooner. So we'll talk more about it in the coming days. The results will be out, we are hoping, by July. Not going to say much about the state funding. We just got the answer. This slide is kind of old, at least 50 minutes old. So we're looking at all the assets. I mean, we have land, stations, commercial networks that we can build inside the alignment that we have. They're going to put all that on the table, and we will let our private sector partners to tell us how they think we can commercialize all of our assets, not just trains. That will be an ongoing discussion. We are thinking to invite financiers and concessionaires to come and discuss with us in a formal way and provide us their thoughts. We are thinking to do that also in June. So we want to move. Our goal is to move the program forward and lay high-speed tracks next year so that people can see it's not complicated. The complicated part for us was the lawsuits, the litigations, the regulations, the acquisitions. People say is that, oh, well, when we said in 2008, it was $38 billion. Well, 2008, when we said that, there was no design, no identification of anything. It was a good guess. Or look at any program in the world. Well, in UK, high speed 2. Yeah. Some folks who have worked on that, today it stands at 78 billion and half the size of the project that we are working on. So we keep building civil construction now and keep looking at opportunities to optimize, but we also are looking at how does this system feeds into other networks, right? I mean, right now we say connect to Caltrain on one end, to ACE in San Joaquin towards Merced, then get down into Palmdale and work with my friend Air Arthur to get High Desert Corridor connected, and then on the other end tie into Metrolink. With that, you can start generating revenues and commercialize your services, and then go continue to build more into San Francisco City, LA, Sacramento, San Diego. We do all of that, but we need to put the system into service as fast as we can and interconnect. And that's the true Southwest high-speed rail network that we are focused on. So no needs to come. We'll continue to talk. I will be more than happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Our cozy fireside chat. We'll have a few minutes together. I learned a lot of new great things today. One of the first being that you were able to successfully birth a budget in 8 months on the job. Well done. We accomplished something with score.
Okay.
Really,
Like a heavy lifting for us. Yeah, but we're there now.
it is a terrific achievement and breaking news. I'm so glad you could share it with all of us today. By the way, I'm sure you've all read his bio, which is rich and detailed with amazing accomplishments, but that's boring. Let's talk about something fun. He is an outdoorsman who is dedicated to hiking, climbing, whitewater rafting, and enjoying the outdoors during his free time, which really allows him to see the impact of greenhouse gas emissions on transportation greenhouse gas emissions on our environment. And you're working every day to make this better.
Absolutely. I live in Colorado. Now I'm in Sacramento and Pilsen. So yes, outdoors is what we do.
Yes. And so, in thinking about some of what you shared today, I'd like to drill down a little deeper into how you're changing the culture of the organization, not only internally, but in your relationships with your contractors and consultants. And I really started thinking of that question when we talked about streamlining internally and really empowering people towards this shared vision of success. How'd you do it?
Well, so when I came on board, this is a program that I was looking at since 2012. This was not new to me. And I was out there coming and visiting High Speed Rail Authority back then to try to explain how this program should be organized and how the business should be done as a contractor. That's what I was doing. So why I would leave that role and say, okay, you know what, this is a good place to go and see how to fix it. It was just um, because of my knowledge of the program. All this made me think is like, God, if there is a reason we can fix this, we should reprogram everything. And then there came a time where the brother um, was like, hey, this is something we cannot fail. And I said, yes, we can't, but we have to look at it as like how many things on the list of not to do that have been done on this one. It's like, let's get in and let's look at the entire program. Best thing was cultural shift. People coming, excitement wasn't there. So it was like, I'm really work. I'm going to do this job from 8 to 5 or 8 to 4, and I don't know why I'm here. And so excitement was not there. And partnership, team building exercises were being done between contractors and our team members on our side. But the relationship between the community who's actually building the program and our custodian of taxpayer dollars, which is who we are, there was not a friendly relationship between those two communities. So coming from the contracting world, I had to go sit down with every leader of these firms who are working for us today, contractors included, and brought them into thinking that this program not fit, number one. Number two, they've been there for too long. So we will do, let's make sure we get things done and accomplished so we can do more in the next phase. And then internally, sat about our team, talked to everyone. We had like about 1,100 people, consultant and us combined. I would know we need more. And it took us a while. We had to say, hey, let's not worry about day-to-day stuff that much. Let's align what we are here to do. And that took a few months. Then we hired new people who are now in the leadership level, and their driver was behaviors. So I'm very excited. Our team now, I allude to red every day. they can actually execute the vision, and I can come and talk to you people here anytime. And I'm very excited with that.
Who empowered them to do this. And I just like to do a little shout out to Alice. Where's Alice? She's one of the phenomenal members of your team. And by the way, our association was actually getting a WTS Sacramento award for having a majority of your leadership team being women.
Yeah.
And that's something you've been committed to, along with building the K through 12 sector and the interest in transportation, which is something we heard about earlier in the program. Well, we're applaud your efforts and with commitment to that. But in thinking about and by the way, in 15 fun seconds, every year we take 35 high school students to go and see the construction in Central Valley. In California, people are still saying, is that project happening? It's a bunch of bull. Stop the bull. We were just talking about your consultants and your contractors. You held a first ever event in January in Sacramento where you really broke down barriers and silos so people could communicate with you better. You were there, you were present, you were engaged. What lessons did you take away from that experience?
Couple of things here. I came from the same industry where those colleagues and friends that I used to work with were all there.
HMTB?
Right? So the companies I enjoy working with. And then when I come on this side, I'm like, well, there are the partners, because that's what the investors, financiers, builders, designers, engineers, commodity suppliers, train manufacturers, talk to everybody. And so bring them in, share our vision, and let them then tell us what they think. That engagement was superb. We will spend 2 days. And our idea was we'll get the industry engaged, but then let them come back to us with more questions, more solutions. So I would say January to now, almost every week, there's industry folks who came in January will keep coming back, asking more questions, sharing more tasks, sharing more ideas with us. And that's what we wanted. And I really appreciate all the industry that came to us, from nuts and bones manufacturers to rebar suppliers to steel companies. We are very, very grateful that the industry remain engaged to this day. And we have a plan to engage them more.
Well, your leadership is phenomenal, and it really reflects that when people feel heard, valued, and respected, they collectively work better together to achieve that common goal. Let's switch gears a little bit. You revealed during your PowerPoint how the authorities looking at the new link, Bay Area, Los Angeles, Gilroy, Palmdale, and you talked about the Southwest High-Speed Rail Network. Tell us more about why this shift in focus.
Shift in focus is not the way I would say it. I say like this is more what we should do to deliver services to people. If we were just doing what we were doing before, which is connecting Bakersfield to Merced, and just stop there, we are not serving taxpayers for what they were paying for. That was just not an option for us to say, well, the program was all about San Francisco to LA going through Central Valley. And then somehow we just stopped shared there and say, well, the funding is a challenge. The finances is not there. The project is slow and a little late. So let's not build the whole thing. That was not an option for me. For me, it was, let's go back to where we were supposed to be. Now that we have proved environmentally almost all the alignment, why not to just go revisit and say, connect these different corridors? And when we did that model, we ended up recognizing actually is way better than doing just the central portion by connecting to different neighborhoods. Imagine now a Fresno resident can go to San Jose through our Gilroy connection in less than an hour. So Silicon Valley gets connected to Central Valley. Just see the impact on housing in Fresno, in Bakersfield. And that is what excited us. So I thought it was just not an option for us to just do the middle part and just leave it there. That's not how Europe does. That's not what Japan did in 1959. The investment here was that it was on the shaky ground from the beginning on this program, right? But then I compare it to Northeast Corridor, where we had been, what was it, 1836? Northeast Corridor concept was created. And since then, we have been funding that. I think it was about 260 billion or more. And when we say we're right about the Southwest, we're never do anything about that. Right? If we get 3 billion, we're just going to whine about it. Why are we doing this investment in the high-speed rail? We said no. Let's go build in the Southwest a high-speed rail network. Imagine now, California high-speed rail, high desert, and then Bright Line connected on the other side, either from San Francisco to Las Vegas. And that was our approach. It's like, all right, let's interconnect all these systems.
As somebody who lives in the Silicon Valley in a condo, I'm going to move to Fresno so I can have a yard once you get this system built. It would be really awesome. We talked a few minutes ago about the diverse people that you employ on your team and all the backgrounds they come from. And in looking in your background, I know your first degree was in economics, which really proves the point that not many of us set out to be in transportation. So we'll have to tell the story better about what these opportunities are. When you're telling the story about this incredible infrastructure project, and when you are met with resistance, which happens with unfortunate great frequency, how do you respond and maintain your diplomacy and grace?
I treat this program as nothing else than any other infrastructure investment we do in the United States. This is no different. Why this program got to this point where everyone wants to criticize a rail track building, station building project? For the life of me, I cannot get my head around why.
Yeah.
Well, building highways, toll lanes every day in this country. We build metros, underground, overground, all day long. There was invest billions and billions in those. This one somehow got all the attention in a way that I'm like, let's go talk to people who are criticizing rather to critique on a infrastructure project, which is on only 2-3 things. Economic growth, that are boomers and harvest and not connected the Central Valley. They were life-changing growth into those communities. 1, 2, then we're creating job opportunities. Then we're creating housing opportunities at affordable cost. I mean, I used to live in San Francisco for many years, and then I moved to Millbrae. And I tried to buy a house there. I was from Colorado in San Francisco. This is in 2013. To a point, Edward's house in that area, 2.2 million, right? And I'm talking like if you are living in Japan, the size of the house, right? And shoeboxes. And I'm like, oh, that doesn't make sense. Then now today, think about that even go to work in Silicon Valley, Peninsula, then come back. Same day, your ride is 2 hours. That is why I want to talk to everyone. It's like, what is not good about this project? It costs money. Any program like this will cost money. 100 billion is too much. Says who? Right? My question is, what are we comparing with?
Exactly.
Oh, what's the next big thing that you can tell? Oh, UK high speed too. That's more money that they're spending per mile than us. So, like, where is the issue? I'm here. I will talk to everyone.
And clearly, it's a much safer mode of transportation as well. In 2011, when the trifecta of disaster happened in Japan, the Shinkansen was able to slow and stop and successfully evacuate every passenger with 0 injury and 0 loss of life when they were faced with the nuclear meltdown, the tsunami, and the earthquake. 0 injury, 0 loss of life. The safety argument itself is right there. I'm going to open it up for questions in just a moment. So if you have questions, please raise your hand and a mic will be brought to you. What words of wisdom do you have for other people who are trying? Oh, yeah, I like that question. But you learn it's a wisdom. I'll let him ponder that. We'll close out with that. What? Do we have any questions from people who are joining us? I see right here in the front. Lauren, y'all real louder as somebody running with a microphone. Here she comes. We're so calm too. I really like your interpersonal engagement.
Thank you.
Hello, Ian.
Hey.
Anil Verma, Architects and Engineers for Stations. Just a question. What is your vision? When do you think you will get to Palmdale or Union Station in Los Angeles and up to the Transbay Terminal and the SF area?
So, well, you have three things there. So Transbay as the one that is currently waiting for the tunnel to get there. I'll put that one on the side for a second. But the next is
Go to Palmdale, number one, and Palmdale,
in California. Yeah. And sure, evaluation. We came to conclusion very quick, but getting to Palmdale opens opportunities on both sides. One connecting to Brightline and the other connecting to Metrolink. We have to drill through not just looking at the Hachapis, but then once you arrive on the Palmdale side, then if you're going to Burbank, you have some mountain ranges to deal with there. Our current thinking is if we get a stable like we did today, we get to the final number in the next year or so, we should be starting design activities in a couple of years on both sides, Gilroy and Palmdale. And then we should be looking at construction 2 years from there to start, right? And that's where we are talking about why public-private partnership is very important for us. Is we build what we're doing today, we don't stop. And then we have private partners engrossed in doing those two sections for us under some type of arrangement. We don't know final kind of agreements that we'll have in place, but right now 120 miles, we can build it. We can probably build also the 171 in total. And then engage private sector so we can start sooner working towards Palmdale and Gilroy.
Thank you. Do we have other questions? I can't see very well, but Ben.
That's okay, and I don't think I need a mic. Ben Profosi at HOTB. Yeah, you touched on
Wait, hold on, they take you. Yeah. Right there.
choir mic.
The first time I've ever heard that.
Doesn't happen very often. And you touched on the Gilroy San Jose segment and the role that Union Pacific plays in that corridor. Can you talk a little bit about your thoughts on how to engage the freights and how to come to some agreement to move that segment forward?
Yes, I met with them, Pacific leadership team, about 2 weeks ago. The discussion was the route into that island Gilroy, and Caltrain service that is, I think, 2 trains in the morning and 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon. Was there enough slots available between the freight movement and us so we can send more trains? And then the second question I had with them was what it takes to wrap up acquiring the land that they own. That was the first time we started seriously discussing acquisition of right-of-way, and that will happen sooner. They have shown extreme interest in finalizing that. Now they have, hey, we give you this is the dollars you do there, but we'll do something else somewhere else, which probably you know what that was back when you were there. But we had to kind of deal with it. I did tell them that we were very, very interested in acquiring instead of trying to find time slots because we have to electrify. So, and they don't want electrification near your locomotives.
Yeah. You didn't a little pushback from that. Thank you. No, Trustee Matt Tucker.
How you doing, Matt Tucker with HDR? Ian, it's great seeing us. We flipped from I'm now in the private sector. He's now in the public sector role. When I think about these kinds of projects, I think a little bit about during COVID, I moderated a presentation from the Japanese railway. And what I found so interesting was how much they leverage development to support the capital and operating costs. When I see a project like this, where I think what really gets lost is we think about the Dwight D. Eisenhower system, about the large amount of economic development. And in the US, we just don't do a good job of monetizing it towards the benefit of the public sector improvements. Instead, someone else captures that benefits and then talks about how much it costs to deliver a project. What is the perspective, given where we are today and what are we going to need to do in order to fund, operate, and maintain, from the state perspective of really harnessing that power for development to generate long-term revenue sources to support the operating maintenance costs for the system?
Um, well, good to see you, Matt. We've known each other for a decade or more. Food. Start. You were talking about Japan. Look at Western Europe. It's the national initiative that builds these things. It is never stop and go. When Parliament comes, says, "Oh, high-speed rail," we never did that. The other one comes like, "I love high-speed rail." We'll do it. We'll do it that way. And so we politicize infrastructure programs, then they'll become very difficult to build. That does not exist in Japan, in Taiwan, in France, Germany. If the government says we're going to build it, they're going to build it. So when I came in, I could have enjoyed my life in the sector that I was living in without any issues there. But I said, look, we cannot fail on this one. This is the first true high-speed rail system in North and South America combined. So how can we fail? It's just not an option, right? We said where the problem is going to come is always going to be in the drip, drop, stop and go, uncommitted state or federal government. So we said we'll work with the government, state level, with the administration. And when I spent a lot of time with our legislature, met with everyone who passionately care about the program, but they couldn't see how this can be completed. And so I had to go back a dozen times to actually explain to them how this is going to work. Not only will build, but how we will operate and how we will maintain and how the cost will be recovered. So that made us to get to the point today when the state said, okay, we're going to backstop X billion a year. That just came out. That was 7 months of going everywhere and talking to them. Second, the revenue commercialization of assets starts giving us a visibility into how fast we can monetize the assets that we have and then take some of that additional revenue, put it back into the capital, which was never a plan before. I mean, this program was funded entirely by the state taxpayers on federal. Now we're looking at we can do both.
Which brings me to my own question about the current political landscape and the threat of federal funding to our project.
Um,
There's not a question there. That was just an open-ended comment to see if
it was a question is, if we don't have the money, how we build the project? I will tell you, if we don't have the money to win anything, it takes about 2-3 years to lock down the shop and go home. So we can't have that vision at federal or state level. When I go there, I say, why on the earth we're going to be talking about taking money away from a public works program that delivers a true high-speed system, the first one in North America. And I say, explain to why would anyone do that? The money we spent today, I mean, look at, we were spent about 13.7 billion already. 78% of that is California money.
Wow.
So we're going to build. If something happens that somebody says, at the federal level, we'll take some money and give you less, That to me is like, okay, we were supposed to finish a very nice basement and have all the green rooms. We're not going to build those. Okay, fine, but we are still going to build that house. So I think our vision is we'll proceed. We don't see any problem now after what we heard today. And now we are hoping federal government will stay engaged with us because we need that partnership too.
That was a very big win in your first year of your tenure in this position. Other questions? It's a little hard to see, but I see a hand back here and here. And anybody else? Okay, here and here.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name's Tom Rowe, and I work for Jacobs, and I lead the delivery partner into High Speed 2 in the UK. So some interesting companies which I don't necessarily disagree with. And if you look at the two projects or programs where they are now, the parallels between them are really similar. But the reset that you've described for me you're doing are happening now today in the UK in HS2, and we're at a very similar stage of the program. So the benefit of hindsight and what we kind of all collectively learn. What happens, you think, between your initial ambition to build the railway versus what you then confront partway through, which means you need to reset, refocus, and do what you're saying, which is kind of build to meet the demand and then build on and build on. And there's other people in the room who've done that quite successfully. Our colleagues from Senna lived that experience with Spain. So and interested in your thoughts and reflections on that, on these big programs.
Well, our challenges were not about would they were to go and build this line. We'll do that. But we put a price ticket and we say, oh, well, it's roughly $38 billion. We'll get it done. That was a line in the map. And then some pulling from the air, a good number. Because what we did, I believe, I was right there, it was referencing some other project in some other part of the world. And to say per mile is this and this is 500 miles. So this divided by that, here is a number and we're all good. Well, it doesn't work that way. You kill High Speed to learn that. We learned it. So all lessons learned really are two things. One, the regulations that we were subjected to, that we need to now take into account those on every new phase that we budget for and then we schedule for. We're going to do that now. Second, for us, we have two processes. One is California Air Quality Action CEQA process. And then we have the LUPA process, which is the federal one. This project is about one thing only, greenhouse gas reduction. So 80% of the clean air impacts. Now somebody got to tell me, what is that we're clearing through NEPA and CEQA when the core of this project itself is about greenhouse gas reduction, is built into the law. So now I'm working with the state and saying, can we get exemptions of these things? Because look at what we're building. Oh, we are reducing carbon footprint by 80% with the system. What we had to go and check if the air quality is going to be improved by doing that? Right. Doesn't make sense. A lot of lessons learned there.
What an inefficiency. Wow.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, hi, my name's Mo. I'm with Alto, Canada High Speed Rail Initiative. And we were a bit earlier in the project. I had a question for you. If you were to go back in time where we are in the early development stage, what advice would you give us Canadians?
Do not underestimate the power of regulations and bureaucracy. I have worked in done some projects in Canada. If I can go back and fix, if I can go back 15 years ago, I will build into population centers and then get out and get to other towns. But that's not what the funding was for. So we had a challenge, and maybe in Canada you don't have the same situation. We were getting federal commitments, but those were coming with the strings attached and were telling us where to go build. This town was telling how to build high-speed rail. And we said, well, we should do it over there. The answer was no. We'll give you this money and we're going to go build there. That's how we ended up. And I I wish that that was not the decision back then.
I've heard from prior leaders that that decision it really set the stage for this not going efficiently and successfully.
Look, the 7.4 million people live in Central Valley, roughly. More than 33 states. Population, right?
That again.
About 7.4 million people live within San Joaquin Central Valley area, right? So, well, it was not wrong to say to connect through Central Valley other population centers. What was not right was that we started there. So now we're kind of saying, well, even if you run the service tomorrow, still are not serving these communities from what the goal was. The goal was connecting them to the economic centers, powerhouses, affordable housing. I mean, just think about it. If you run Merced, Bakersfield, and along, what is the economic impact? Negligible. The moment you connected to Gilroy and Palmdale on the other end, the impact is 100 times more, right? So it was not right to say go through Central Valley because it was very ignored part of California. It was not right to start building there.
Understood. Over here, please.
Paul Tigmazian, just an OCS engineer, but just wondering about one thing. This administration is looking to cut regulations where possible. And since now you're in authority and you have a lot of information for the California high-speed rail, what regulations would you propose to cut to this administration so that we can build more high-speed rail? And, not answering it now, but you have the information. How can we help you kind of thing? What information can you give us to figure out what's getting in the way of actually building, but still making it safe?
I mean, like I said earlier, surrounded the with the process words to acquire land for public projects. You at the state level discussing that how to streamline that. But the second part that impacted the project negatively, and to this date it does, were the major utilities not getting out of the way in time. And that literally derailed the rail program. And when I went and talked to our legislature in California, I asked them to give us the jurisdictional authority and powers to these major utility companies to get their stuff out of the way with a time frame, whatever that time frame looks like, so we could stabilize the schedule and stabilize the cost. I have to move TMT rail trunk lines out of a road where we are line numbers and reprogram for 6 months to do it. And then we'll end up with 6 years. And that's still in the way because the utility company is not prioritizing that because they're busy making hundreds of billions of dollars. So then for me, that jurisdictional authority here in this town or at the state level. That's what we need.
Is there a question back there? Yes. We're blinded up here, by the way. Let's look like I don't know what I'm doing because I don't. I can't see very well.
Over here.
Thank you.
Green Mass Electric. 2 questions. One, you said this is a greenhouse gas program. How is it not a better story to talk about it as an economic development opportunity for the Central Valley and other parts of the country doing the same project? And the second question is, you mentioned this year is going to be commodity purchases and next year construction. Will the construction contracts be procured this year or starting next year?
2 things. I've spent a lot of time talking about economic growth and connecting communities, but I'll repeat that. That's all about that. The greenhouse gas reduction, the vast amount of pollution that was happening in Central Valley, that was the goal is like, okay, when Remwither was there faster, we'll take the SI-99 traffic off, reduce, so that will have significant air quality improvement impact in the Central Valley. That's the context of saying this program, electrified trains are 30% better than planes and cars that are running combustible fuel. That's just the fact. So it does impact that. It connects community. Any transportation project, especially the high speed or metro lines, when you connect neighborhoods, Konami Rail 7 was saying about Japan. That's how, well, Matt was talking about in Tokyo, and connecting those high speed lines to small towns where the 70% of the growth came right after when they connected high speed system into small villages that transform into mega cities. So the impact is known, and these programs will have that. But the cleaner environment is just built into the concept of electrified high-speed system. It's just there. So we'll have to acknowledge that is improving air quality and quality of life for people who are living, but also economic growth is coming into those areas.
And 2 fun facts, if I recall correctly, the unemployment rate in the Central Valley before this project started was in the double digits, and now it's in the single digits with over 15,000 people having been put to work. Shout out for that.
That's right.
And that brings our time to a close because we're always on time in transportation, or at least we are. So join me in one more round for Ian. Thanks, Ian.
I know here.